Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about an old film that I did called Cheap and Easy Meditative Efficiency. It was this sci-fi kind of thing that I wrote originally for a 48-hour film festival in 2018. Our attempt at making a film in 48 hours completely fell flat. And I kind of took the idea that we wrote because I kind of liked what was going on with the whole dystopian 1984 Brave New World sort of thing that we were building up. And I kind of wanted to expand it into something else and to make a bit of a philosophical, psychological kind of thing about the idea of people that are living in a dystopia that are happy with the dystopia they're actually living in and they don't want change. And I kind of thought there might be something interesting within that idea. And so I spent this time writing this 15-page script and then getting it done, filmed, and then released. And the idea was to make a quite high quality thing, as high quality as I could make at that present moment. I'd just come off of finishing my first real short film, which is called Michael's Lives. And looking back at it, I'm not very happy with it. At the time, I remember really enjoying it. And I remember there being a lot of fun experimentation and stuff like that, particularly within the filmmaking itself. There was this idea that Michael had these flashes that were going on because of the medication that he was taking that caused like false memories to come in, and like the memories started messing around with his own subconscious. And that's a very weird idea to actually get across in a film. I feel like it would have worked better in a book or something like that. But I look back at that film and I kind of cringe a little bit. But, you know, it was the first thing that I ever did properly. It's a 27-minute goddamn short. I mean, no short has any excuse being that long, particularly if it's your first one that's being filmed on a Nikon D3100. And, you know, with no real, like, microphones or anything like that, a lot of it's camera audio or, like, one boom audio that I got from college. One boom mic that I got from college, and I was using my friends for cameramen and actors and all that sort of stuff, and so we had a blast actually working on the film together, and it was a fun project, and I'm really glad that I actually went and did it. But I look back at it, and I've semi-disowned it. I'm glad that I did it, but I'm not glad that I spent as long as I did working on it and trying to perfect it. I almost wish that I'd just spent the month on it and then just shat it out almost. And then after Michael's Lives, I started working on this film called Cheap and Easy Meditative Efficiency, which is a name that everyone told me to not call it that. And I quite vehemently was sticking with that name, and I still like that name. It's still, to me, that is what the film is about. It's about the idea of meditative efficiency. So the idea of getting into a meditative state in an efficient sort of manner, so it's combining the holistic sort of nature of the oneself within a larger, grander context of finding yourself in this bigger world, mixed with the idea of commodifying your life into a series of numbers and statistics and that kind of thing. And I thought those two themes worked quite well together and they gelled quite interestingly. But even with that film, when that came out, I kind of look back on it and I don't think I conveyed that theme particularly well within the film. I feel like it's a little bit vague and a little bit just pretentious. And I feel like when you're just starting out, right, when you're making your first film or you're making your first thing, it can be very easy to get lost in your own mind and your own brain with your own ideas that you think are super complex and super interesting, but then you will come back in years to come and realize that they're not actually all that. They're not actually as groundbreaking as you thought they were. I mean, I thought I was doing something original, and it was only sort of in the editing process I realized that I had just completely ripped off 1984 and Brave New World and just sort of bammed them together and just released that as a product. It's basically a student film where I wasn't a student anymore. And you know what, I am glad that I did the project, and I still think it holds up on a technical level. The sound's all right, the visuals are pretty nice, the acting I think is quite good. Overall, there's some quite fun little moments in there and vignettes woven throughout the narrative. There's a lot of fun going on with regards to who this main character, who's called Joe 3585, and how he sort of goes from having this chip in the brain that gives him this automative state to him sort of self-actualizing a little bit, and the consequences that come from that, from a tyrannical government trying to put a stop to that. And you know, it was all a little bit naive and a little bit sort of teenagery, but you know, I was a teenager when I made it, so I can only say that I was glad that I did it the way that I did it, because it is my film and I do own that film in that sense. I mean, obviously I literally own it, but I mean in the sense I own what I made, and I'm glad that I made it, and I wouldn't have made it any other way. And there was a few different ways. I mean, we shot it over 4 days, 3 main days, and then we did another day a bit later where I got my friend Lee, my friend Gesem, and my friend Jake to come down alongside John Henry Westhead, who plays Joe 3585, and we had this quite fun scene where their characters, Lee, Jake, and Gesem, are all kind of talking about like, oh yeah, you managed to do 4,000 boxes in an hour. Well, I managed to do 4,500, so I'm better than you. And you know, you just aren't even getting your work done. At least I can just sit around and gab on, but I get more done than you, and you're actually trying to work. And they were having this little argument, and it was almost like Mean Girls of the warehouse workplace a little bit, and that was kind of fun. And they also end up beating him up, and that ends up sort of getting him to semi-wake up a little bit. He's also got this holographic, you know, girlfriend that's bought off of the marketplace, and everyone turns out has one of these wives. And he used to smoke, and it turns out that everyone quit smoking at the exact same time because they updated the chips in everyone's brains to just make them so that they wouldn't smoke anymore. And I don't know if I'm actually making any sense with what I'm saying right now, because I don't think the film itself necessarily conveys all these ideas coherently. But I think when you're just starting out, it's important to try and not make the same mistake that I made, which is trying to cover these really grand and overarching themes with very limited resources, and more importantly than limited resources, limited know-how. And understand your naivety and own your naivety and use your naivety to your advantage and make a naive film, a youthful exploit, as it were. So after I did that, I wanted to make a more immature film on purpose, right? So I made a feature film called Sheffield Psychedelic, and the idea of that one was that it follows this sort of youngish, sort of 17, 18-year-old lad who then gets caught up in the underworld of Sheffield, as it were, and he starts getting into a world that's a bit in over his head, and his dad's a bit controlling, and his home life is a little bit miserable, not like in a like abusive way or like really awful stuff, but just kind of just dead and like awkward and that kind of thing. And I was sort of drawing from films that I was enjoying at that time, like Dead Man's Shoes, and I can't remember what the other one was called that was set in Scotland, and stuff like This Is England. It was a very northern feeling film, and I wanted to capture that northern sense to the world of Sheffield, and I wanted to make sure that the town itself was a character almost in the film. And you know what? I came out of that film and I looked at it, and it's not, I still like it quite a lot, and I think it's a fucking hilarious film actually. And I did set out to make it a bit of a comedy, but I feel like as you make each film, you will look back and you will see things that are wrong with your past creations that you try and fix with your new creations. And then once you've made your new creations and you've moved on to the next thing, at that point in your life, you're going to look back and you're going to sort of think, oh wow, I didn't quite understand what I was doing there, and I didn't quite do that right, and I would have done this a bit differently. But I think you should avoid getting in over your head about overanalyzing and being overly critical and overly cynical of your past works, because you've learnt these lessons. If you're able to look at your old stuff and say these things about them, it means that you're not going to make those same mistakes again. And to be honest, they're not even necessarily mistakes, because these are things that you will notice because you know what your original vision was and how the end product sort of diverged from that original vision and became its own thing. Right? And you're just there trying to harness this energy of the project that you're working on to try and make it what you want, and it kind of wants to be its own thing. And you're kind of wrestling with this film to try and, or album or whatever it might be that you're making in this moment, to try and make it what you want, and it wants to be what it wants to be. And I think that sort of duet is what's really important with regards to these low budget, no budget indie films and you know, albums made by people in their bedrooms and all that kind of stuff, is that you don't have full control over everything. So I feel like if you're just starting out, try and avoid doing what I did, which is to try and make these lofty, quite pretentious, quite over-the-top sort of things, and focus more on the simplistic and the fun, and make something that's enjoyable and entertaining first rather than thought-provoking and all that sort of stuff second, because you're still young, you're still naive, you don't know everything yet, And I think you even kind of know that a little bit, but you kind of shove that little part out of your brain so that you can be the artiste, the visionary that has this idea, because you have these lofty ideas of your own future and your own aspirations and that kind of thing, and you want to get to somewhere, and you're using these films or these projects as stepping stones to get yourself to that point, because the bigger your backlog is, the more experience you have, the better you will become over time, and you will only learn by doing. Your first film will never be your best one. It will never ever be your best one, unless you somehow won the lottery of creativity. And it would almost be a curse in a way if your first thing you ever made was your best and you're constantly trying to get to that same thing again. You're constantly trying, you can never quite make it. And I just mean in terms of quality. I don't necessarily mean in terms of outward reception or external validation and success that might come from driving viewer engagement or maybe getting into film festivals and all that sort of stuff. I'm talking more about your own appreciation of your past works. So all your past stuff is what brings you to the person that you are today as a creative, and who you are today wouldn't be who you are if you hadn't made these things that maybe now you look back at with, and you're not quite proud of it anymore. You wouldn't be here if it weren't for those things, and you won't be where you are in the future if not for the stuff that you're doing now. If you don't finish what you're doing now, then you will never be that person in the future that you hope to be, which is what you're always driving and striving to be. Even when you're maybe down, you feel like it's all impossible and you're close to giving up. If you don't give up and you just keep pushing and you just force yourself a little bit, even when it feels difficult, you will eventually complete whatever this thing is, move on to the next thing and complete that, and then move on to the next thing. And the more you do that, the better you will get. The increase in your trajectory of talent will just, the leaps of talent that you will bound through will become larger and larger and larger, and you will just get better and better and better. Even if, from an outsider's point of view, people might not be super fond of what you're doing, or they might think your old stuff was better. If you're still trying earnestly, you will be getting better no matter what, because you've got the experience of where you were, you've learnt the lessons, and you're applying those lessons. And as long as you're applying those lessons and making sure that you're not repeating the same mistakes that you made before, then you will be on a journey to success, no matter what. So with this cheap and easy meditative efficiency film, I think I'm going to upload it to this channel so that you can get a bit of a sense of what I was doing in that mindset in 2018, 2019. And sort of, that film took a long time to edit and finish, and I procrastinated on it for a long time, and it only ended up getting released in 2022 to my old channel, Morrison Productions. And I really wish that I hadn't spent quite so long just perfecting every little detail, because I never perfected it in the end, and I was never going to perfect it in the end, and there was no singular edit that would have solved all the issues. There was no magical moment that, I don't have like George Lucas's wife to come in and just save me, and just solve all the issues for me as a director. I need to save myself, and if it can't be saved, then it's best to complete it and push it out the way so that you can move on to newer and greener pastures. So after I did cheap and easy meditative efficiency, I took the same general narrative structure and applied it to a much simpler post-apocalyptic concept, which was basically the idea that if you're in a post-apocalypse, you shouldn't be kind to other people, because kindness will beget betrayal, essentially. And you will be betrayed if you show kindness onto other people. And that was kind of the main idea of it. But it followed a very similar plot structure, which was a little bit of preamble leading to a main dialogue scene between a hero and a villain, which covers a few different philosophical aspects before one person dies, and then that's it. That was the general sort of idea, and I managed to also refine and condense those ideas from 16 minutes originally down to 10 minutes in I Am Scum. And I think that's also kind of important, is getting your voice out there in an efficient way and not just yabbering on and hypocrite and yabbering on and just trying to make it bigger and loftier and taking super slow-paced approach to things when you're still so new to everything that I don't think people have the patience for that the way that they might with someone like Quentin Tarantino or Christopher Nolan or whoever, that can spend 10 minutes on a scene just not really expanding on everything, but they want a little bit of time to wank themselves off creatively. So don't get super in over your head. Don't allow yourself to give in to your pretentious vindictions, and just create what's fun and create stuff that is fun for yourself and importantly fun for others as well. And as long as both you and the audience are having fun, then you found something, right? And what's so brilliant about this modern day with the internet and everything is that you can get your creative works out there. If I was doing this in the 90s and I was just using like a little digicam or whatever, making films with my friends, yeah, it'd be brilliant. And I could maybe get a couple hard copies out and share them amongst my friends, and maybe my friends would hand them off to various people. Maybe one would give them to their girlfriend, and they break up, and then the girlfriend's got it, and then she ends up giving it to her new boyfriend or whatever, and then the new boyfriend gives it to his mum or whatever, and then her mum ends up giving it to her friend or whatever, and now it's been seen by like a few different people just by this tape being passed around. Now you can bypass all of that. All of those people that I just mentioned can all see it at the exact same time, the exact same way, by getting a link and just seeing it, or just getting it appear on their YouTube recommendations or their TikTok recommendations or whatever it is you might be using. And then it's not just them, the people that are in your life and the people that are friends of your friends and your general social network. Also other people that you've never heard of before, that have no connection to you or your life or your personal self, can engage in what you're doing. If you're watching this, there's a 99% chance that we've never met, we've never interacted, and I don't know who you are. And I think the fact that you can see this and I can see what you're doing is so profoundly beautiful. The fact that we can get out there and just collaborate together in this sort of way, and leave little comments and like videos and go back to other people and go, oh wow, this one's good and this one's good, and that kind of thing. So I feel like take a look at the old stuff that you did. See what you did right, see what you did wrong. Because you did some stuff right, and your old stuff certainly holds up better than you think. I've not watched Michael's lives now for about 4 years, but I feel like if I go back to it and watch it again now, I'll probably be a lot kinder to it than if I just continue to not watch it. So I'm not going to go back and watch it, but I feel like it's probably better than I'm letting on. And I feel like Cheap and Easy is probably better than letting on. And I feel like every film that I've made before that I'm maybe no longer proud of in that sort of sense of objective quality, I may be proud of for the fact that I actually went out and accomplished it. I went out and did it, and it's now out. And they probably hold up a lot better than I think they do. So that's generally the message, is go out there and make stuff and keep making stuff, because eventually it will be 10 years from now and you want to look back at the stuff you made 10 years ago. And the only way you're going to do that is if you get out now and do it. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please leave a comment below about some of your old work. How do you feel about it? Do you feel proud of it? Do you feel like you want to disown it? Have you unlisted it all from YouTube? Have you made sure that, have you locked off so no one can ever see it? Or do you go the opposite route and just allow people to see it as part of your overall creative journey? Let me know, and let me know what you think of your old projects. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video, everybody. By the way, this location is actually where we filmed some of Cheap and Easy. That's why I did this video here. This tree has actually seemed to have moved. It was actually slightly over there before. It seems to have shifted over here. I don't know how that's happened, but whatever, I suppose. It's kind of cool. There was another bit of log over there. That's disappeared as well. I don't quite understand how that happened, because they're fucking heavy. This tree, you know, I mean, it's not lightweight. It's that. I don't know if you can see it, but there's another big bit of tree just behind this big bit of tree. That big bit of tree is what the character Joe 3585, played by John Henry Westhead, sat on. And then Alaric Montgomery, he sat somewhere over there, just where the camera is, basically. And he was played by someone called Marquez. And thank you so much to both Marquez and John Henry, and also Malin Frank, who played the role of the holographic girlfriend, whose name escapes me. Danny, that was it, Danny. Or Moira, I can't remember which one it was. It was one of them. So yeah, that's basically it. That's basically the video. Thank you so much for watching this one. Sorry it's a little bit all over the place, but you've come to expect that by this point, I suppose, if you've watched more than one. And if you haven't, they're all kind of like this. So if you liked it, there's plenty more out there. There's about 150 of these videos out there. So you've got plenty to sift through if you're bored. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye.